Bossing Lit with Mr.
We love you, Mr. Mr. F, where the chuff have you been? You haven't dropped a new podcast since, like, forever. What gives? Us peeps have missed you. I'm tired of binge-watching your YouTube channel, slowly lobotomizing myself via repetitive brain injury. Your production values are not exactly Mr. Beast, if you don't mind me saying.
I'm humbled, truly, by your gently mocking diatribe, little one. I won't give you any excuses. Sometimes life just gets in the way of our best laid plans. Anyway, I'm here now, so let's crack on. I believe you had a question about Hamlet's bestie, Horatio.
Alright. I'll forgive you, but only because the excuse was lamer than a dog with one leg. You're right, Mr. F, I do have a question. What is the point of Horatio? I mean, he's in the play at crucial moments, but his presence befuddles me, and I often think what the bejesus is he doing there, dramatically speaking.
It's another peachy question. You're quite the plain Jane superbrain, do you know that? That's a Neighbours reference. Proof that I don't just do highbrow, but pop culture too. Get me. Okay, Horatio. Well, he functions as a sort of rational, detached observer on stage to the main events. He's present for most of them, including letting us see the veracity of the ghost. He is a fellow scholar and stoic, being Hamlet's confrère in philosophical reflection from Wittenberg. Perhaps he even influenced Hamlet's notion that nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so, a kind of humanistic or stoical take on life. He has deference for Prince Hamlet. He refers to him as my lord or your poor servant. And at the very end of the play, he says, now cracks a noble heart, good night, sweet prince, and flights of angels, sing thee to thy rest. So we feel in the emotive response the depth of friendship, deference, and maybe even a kind of platonic love there. He provides a good contrast with the educated, rational viewpoint of a so-called Renaissance man with other sections of society in the Danish court of Elsinore. For example, his disbelief in supernatural things like ghosts until, quote, vouchsafed with his own eyes. He only believes in the ghost because of the, quote, sensible and true avouch of mine own eyes. A nice example of Hendiadys there. I'll explain that term later. Thus, he relies on evidence-based reasoning. He's a product of his university education and humanism. We see also the deference of those less educated in the court of Elsinore for him, Marcellus and Bernardo on the gun platform. They say, Horatio says 'tis but our fantasy, so through them we see his sceptical humanistic outlook. Tush tush, 'twill not appear, is his initial response when they ask him to keep watch and see the ghost. Afterwards, he says, it harrows me with fear and wonder, another use of Hendiadys there, and goes on to say that this, quote, mote, speck of dust troubles his, quote, mind's eye, where he usually sees skeptically, as a humanist scholar would. He then falls into kind of remembrance of omens and auguries of Julius Caesar's death. This shows us that he's educated because he's read this in Roman history. But it's interesting that someone we've seen up to this point as being skeptical, humanistic, rational, has this tendency, it's unexpected, this kind of turn to the superstitious, but maybe that's the influence of the scene he's in and the experience he's just had. The sheeted dead did squeak and gibber in the streets, and he lists other harbingers of doom that portended the murder of Julius Caesar. Hamlet also sees things in his mind's eye, so they have a shared penchant for meditative self-reflection for rational thought, and they're both scholars at Wittenberg. As an educated man with Latin, he is the one who's urged to speak to the ghost, this being the conventional mode of communication with them, though theatrical convention dictates he uses English in this play. He adopts a brave, commanding tone with the ghost. He charges the ghost to speak to him and still seeks an explanation, a kind of rational explanation for what's happening. So initially he says, "Stay, illusion." It is Horatio who breaks the news to Hamlet about his father's ghost. He is well placed to recognise him, and he gives a coolly rational account. He also warns Hamlet about the dangers to his sovereignty of reason and the risk of falling into madness were he to follow the ghost, as Hamlet is intent upon doing. Other things Horatio does is he gives the audience a brief thumbnail expositional sketch of the rift with Norway, so that backstory that the audience needs to understand what's going on in terms of threats to Denmark. He also reads from the letter from H explaining how he was kidnapped by pirates on his way to England and that he's going to return. And at the end, he tries to lay Hamlet's jewels, sensing, "You will lose this wager." He has one very ambiguous line on learning of Claudius's plot to have Hamlet killed and of Hamlet's ploy to have Rosencrantz and Guildenstern killed. Why, what a king is this? Which could be a criticism of Claudius or of Hamlet, the future king. At the end of the play, he's willing to die a Roman death, i.e. suicide, but is encouraged by Hamlet to endure in order to leave a verifiable historical account behind of the pile of bodies, to explain that, and also to safeguard reputations and historical truth. He is entrusted by Hamlet to, quote, "tell my story," and to stop him leaving behind a, quote, "wounded name."
Chuffing Nora. That's a monster of an answer. I feel like I could write Horatio's biography now. I guess that's what makes you the original Bossman of English, Mr. F. Word of the week, Hendiadys. This word doesn't even look like English and has me utterly befuddled. What does it mean, and how can I use it to look proper brainy in my essays? Keith, do you know?
As a plastic skeleton, I'm afraid I haven't the foggiest what this word means. I'm no bossman, more of a mossman, in it. They laughed when I said I wanted to be a stand-up comedian. Well, who's laughing now?
Don't worry, Keith. I've got your back. The Merriam-Webster dictionary defines this as the expression of an idea by the use of usually two independent words connected by "and", such as nice and warm, instead of the usual combination of independent word and its modifier, such as nicely warm. In the Shakespearean scholar Frank Commode's Shakespeare's Language, see my latest Bossing English video for OCR A-level students, he gives the following gloss on this. Hamlet is obsessed with doubles of all kinds, and notably by its use of the figure known as Hendiadys. This means literally 1 through 2 and can be illustrated by some common expressions such as law and order or house and home. These examples are offered by Chris Baldick, who very properly points out that the status of this figure is often uncertain, since it usually cannot be established that the paired words actually express a single idea. But one can justly apply the term to expressions of the sort common in Hamlet. The play has many doublings, but those which exhibit Hendiadys are marked by identifiable tension or strain, as if the parts were related in some not perfectly evident way. Going back to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it uses a different play for its example. William Shakespeare often used Hendiadys. For example, his character Macbeth, speaking of the passage of life, says it is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. For Shakespeare, the construction sound and fury was more effective than furious sound. The key effect here is one of emphasis. The two conjoined nouns create something that neither creates alone, nor would a noun an adjective. Hamlet, though, is stuffed to the gills with Hendiadys, where it seems to further compound the doubling theme. Doubles of characters, kings, Claudius and old Hamlet, sons, Hamlet and Laertes, fathers, Polonius and old Hamlet. This doubling of language may be an effect of time being out of joint, even words coming out disjointed. Some good examples from Hamlet would be when Laertes is talking to Ophelia about Hamlet, describing his love as a fashion and a toy in blood, the perfume and suppliance of a minute. Another really good example would be when Hamlet says of himself, "Oh, what a rogue and peasant slave am I." Next time we'll look at tyranny in Macbeth, what it means, how it's represented, and how its effects are given voice in the play, along with some other stuff.
If you have a question for the original Bossman of English, Mr. F, why not email him at bossinenglishwithmrf@gmail.com. He's got the party that is English lit. Lit. Mr. F will be back with more Felicity anon. Bye for now.
Do not know of what you spoke. Got your faces all the same. I thought of stealing the baby's breath. Stopped it when you came. Trouble, stress,